Hey, it's Empress Rose here. Welcome to our collective reading. Take what works, leave what doesn't. And if you feel so moved, likes, subscribes, emojis, all of those great things, really appreciate them and they really help with the visibility of the channel. All right, we're going to start this reading with Work Your Light. Okay. All right. Oof. All right. So, Council of Light, Divine Orchestration, Helpers in the Subtler Realm. So, you are being helped by unseen guidance. You are being guided. Trust that. You have helpers. There is something here that is being created for you. There's work behind the scenes being done on your behalf. It was meant to be this way. Dance with life. Do something to change your energy. I love this. Do something to change your energy. This is something that is very helpful. A little bit of dance party, a dance session. Doing some big exhales and moving your body around. Breaking up the energy. This is maybe going out dancing. Dance with life. Moving with this. So there's a sense of dancing, moving with somebody, moving with life. And having what they do affect you and having what you do affect them. And having that feedback with, it says with life. So, and I want to say with this divine council of light, with these helpers, like you're moving and then they're moving around you. You're moving and then they're moving the energy around you. Oh, the crumbling, the tower. What are you clinging on to? What's no longer useful for you? What's no longer helpful for you? What was really, really great and really awesome for a very long time or for a while kind of became a structure in your life. There's just a sense of this rigidity needing to go and needing to kind of flow, go with the flow a little bit, move a little bit. There's just this really strong sense of this rigidity, this idea, this construct needing to open up to something with more flow, with more life, with more immediacy, with more intuition, with more ability to move and flow. There's just this building and this structure that is no longer working. It's not going to work. It was always meant to happen like this. And as you move out of the structure into more of a flow state, you are being helped. You have to trust somehow that there are things opening up for you. So I think it's a Goethe quote fortune favors the brave, or make the first move, make a bold move, and life comes in to meet you, something like that. I always get it wrong. Anyway, so the crumbling, what are you clinging on to? It's just not worth it anymore. You got to let go. You got to let go of some kind of structure, some kind of thing that you've relied on. It's just not habitable. This isn't a place to be anymore. But look, it looks like they're dancing in the ruins. This is becoming ruins, and then they're dancing in the ruins. There's something that's kind of fallen apart here, but it's part of the flow, and it feels like it's meant to happen like that. So yeah, it's meant to fall apart right now. And I think you can trust it, that if something falls apart right now, or if something just isn't working anymore, that's what is meant to happen right now. It's meant to do that right now. And allowing more flow to kind of break through. It's sort of like a dam breaking, really, is what it feels like. The river breaking through the dam. That structure isn't needed anymore. So where I live, there's a lot of dam removal, talking about dam removal, stuff like that. And it's like letting this flow state enter where once there has been structure and With this Council of Light, even the Council of Light has counsel, like even these unseen forces around you that are here supporting you, developing you, helping you, bringing you the gifts and the things you need for this next part of your life. Even they have behind that is support, and is a larger plan, is a larger idea. And this could actually be real people that are working behind the scenes, are helping you out, are helping you figure out your next steps, figure out what happens next here. Rose Garden. Interesting. I started a reading before this one, and Boundaries came out. And Rose Garden is this deck's version of Boundaries. Everybody loves the roses, including the cows and the goats and the... So you got to have fences, right? Every rose has its thorn. That's why the roses have thorns, is because they have to protect themselves. So there's a sense of, that's so fascinating, because roses were really prominent in the last one too. The one that I started and did not finish. Rose Garden. The thorns are necessary for your transformation. You need to be guarded. Garden is a plot of land that you guard. So, because what you're growing is, you're growing with intention there. And the things we grow with intention have quite a bit of value to them, are quite precious. They're not weeds, right? Weeds are all the things that are growing unintentionally, and we have to constantly be pulling them out and you know, weeding our mind, pulling out all the things that gets in there that we don't want, so that we can more intentionally grow what it is we do want. But in order to intentionally grow what we do want, those things have so much value and are so precious that we do have to protect them. Something is changing, and in that process of change, it requires protection. It's like a changing room. You're going to go into the changing room, you're going to change your clothes in the dressing room, but it is this area of guardedness. It's the telephone booth, it's the protected space so that change can happen. It's the cocoon, right? The cocoon is a whole boundary that the caterpillar makes for itself, so that the caterpillar makes for itself this cocoon so that it can change in a very protected space. So home body protected space for the purpose of change, for the purpose of safety, while you intentionally do something. And in that intention, other people want it. Other people would take it. Other people would disturb the peace that is required for this transformation. That's why we have the thorns. So perspective, this is funny. Okay. The other reading I did that I had some issues with it. It's so similar. So it's a lot of like, I said what I said. Perspective. So this, seeing something from a different point of view, from the opposite point of view, it opens up opportunities, but maybe that's a little bit of what's crumbling here, is one perspective, and you need the other perspective to be balanced out, right? Because there's this dance with life. There's this movement with something, with someone else, with something. And there's a perspective that's coming in here, a way of seeing something. And it's not a big overview perspective. It's just a different way of seeing the same thing, looking up versus looking down. It's just looking at it from a different angle. Yeah, because this definitely is not getting perspective, which is almost always a way of saying, like, your problems aren't that big, don't worry about them. By someone else who's like, my problems are much bigger, okay. So it's just this, like, it's not the overview. It's not the bird's eye view that makes your life look so small and so insignificant and your feelings not a big deal. It's just a different way of looking at something. So being open to that, seeking it out perhaps. I mean, I think it's interesting because like, if you're on a path of personal growth, you don't know what you don't know. So it's just like, well, what are you supposed to change? How are you supposed to grow if you don't know the direction to grow in? And other people aren't necessarily reliable reports of the direction you need to go on, because oftentimes the direction you need to go in is in benefit to them. So is the direction that benefits them the most. So it's getting a different perspective on something. So maybe something's happened here, a little bit shocking, a bit of a tower moment, and you need to kind of not be very rigid about it, not approach it very strictly and rigidly, but be open to seeing it from a different view, asking about a different view. Allow your view of something to be a little more fluid, a little more flow, a little more give and take here. A little more give and take. And then isolation, right? Which is interesting because that's a lot of what I was getting from Rose Garden is like, you're going to have to go into the changing room and kind of get some privacy here. So stepping away from the group, stepping away from a dynamic, moving alone. I want to say also, heavy is the head that wears the crown. I don't understand, like a leadership role or something like that. Like you're stepping away from the group. It's for the purpose of growing something, of developing something very sweet, very nice. But you do need to set up some boundaries, probably. Right, the guarded land, setting up these boundaries, cordoning something off, working alone for a bit. I think of it as a voluntary isolation to gain perspective on something, to gain a different perspective. But almost with this tower opening up, it's like this isolation is crumbling, this isolating tower that maybe you've been imprisoned in is coming down. Because Dance with Life is giving me like a less rigidity, right, than the tower that's crumbling. That's very rigid. So joining a dance, leaving isolation. And then abundance. There's a lot available. And maybe you're on the other side of the harbor, but there's plenty available. They can't guard all of it. It can't all be guarded. So there is a lot here. There's an abundance. It's enough. There's enough for everybody here. And maybe surprising. It may have to do with a building specifically. There may be a building that is associated with abundance. And this building that's crumbling, maybe it's cracking open to reveal the abundance that is there. It's outside of the structure. The abundance is outside of the structure. And the structure could represent work. It could represent a specific place. The abundance is outside of it. Just outside of it, but it's outside of it. Whatever structure this means. And maybe it's a routine, maybe it's, the abundance is nearby, but is outside of the routine, is outside of the structure. And maybe you need to go alone to see that and experience that. But you are dancing with life too. And there's a lot of people here that are helping. So it's really interesting because this Council of Light is right on top of this isolation card. So maybe you're not seeing the help, but you are receiving it. It's meant to be, this isolation. The abundance is outside the walls, though. That's what's interesting about this rose garden. It almost seems like there's a rose garden with really good boundaries, but there's a really interesting thing growing right outside the garden. Yeah, it's about this, I don't want to say going without boundaries, but it's about this crumbling. And outside of this, right, is this gorgeous garden or this gorgeous growth. This abundance is outside. It's not in these canary. It's not inside these canneries. The abundance is actually currently outside of it, not inside the building. That's coming in very clearly that, yes, there's a garden. Yes, the garden is important, but there's something outside that garden that is where the abundance is. And you need to look outside of the norm. Okay. Let's see here. So, tiger breathing bears deck. We've got 8 of Earth. Work. That's really fascinating. This is so funny because the World card is exactly like this, which came out in the reading that I'm not posting. But it's a different perspective on the same scene. It's the exact same scene, but you're looking at it from this side, not the other side. The other side, it looks insurmountable. It looks like there's just this big barrier here. This is, oh wow, I'm starting to like get another idea about the one, like we're in this one, and outside of this reading, there is information from the other one was like about boundaries also. So it's feeding into this one. It's almost like that was like the preliminary groundwork for this one, for this reading. That was the preliminary background groundwork for this reading right here. And it was this boundaries, somebody else's boundaries, and they're projecting something onto you that's causing these really big boundaries. So it looks like an ending. But looked at from this perspective, it's just work. It's just work. So there's something, 8 of Earth is work. It's earth energy. It's, oh my gosh. It's so interesting. It's where you're trying to get to. It's these openings, these cracks. It's a vision you've had. You have a vision for your work. Maybe you had a vision at work. You wrote it down, perhaps. You've written down this vision somewhere, this idea of work, of something to work on. Past, present, inner landscape, what's the issue, environment, to-do list, possible outcome. All right. Wow, there's a lot of people here. Oh my gosh, there's a lot of people here. Okay. Messenger of Earth is where we start. Messenger of Earth. This is the Knight of Coins. This is the gardener putting in all the work, putting in, preparing things, and we have the rose garden here. So the gardener gardening these roses, growing these roses, putting in a lot of groundwork. Basically, in this one, it's a lot of groundwork. It's not a lot of above ground work. It's not a lot of like visual work. It's not a lot of work that people see and notice and congratulate. It's the groundwork. If you've ever been a gardener, you know that there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes. There's preparing the soil. There's preparations. You can have and now's the time to be doing that, January, at least in the Northern Hemisphere. You know, planning out your garden, figuring out where everything goes. Seeing what the soil needs, knowing what the soil needs, getting a plan for how you're going to build the soil. It's the groundwork. So someone's been laying groundwork behind the scenes. It is not in front of the scenes. It is not talking about it. I mean, it is a bit talking about it, but it's not talking about it really. It's about doing it, actually doing the work. So maybe this is like spring work, and it's a humble work. It's not big, brash, loud work. It's humble work. They're just putting in some work. I think behind the scenes, it's giving counsel of light of someone putting work behind the scenes, behind the scenes. So two of earth, this is like the two coming together. Usually two of earth is a bit of a juggling, like there's a lot going on. You've got maybe a couple jobs you're juggling. You've got a couple things that you're juggling, but this two of earth is very fertile. This is like twins. Twins. Interesting, because that's coming out here, and there was twinning in the other reading too. So twins is what this is giving. Two things born at the same time. It's two of earth. This messenger of earth is preparing the soil for fertilization, to plant something in it. Yeah, it's preparing the soil for planting. But instead of planting one thing, two things are going to emerge. It's going to be planting one thing, but getting two things. And it might be a little much. It might be a little overwhelming. And oftentimes there's some pruning involved, pulling one thing out, needing to cut things out, because you can't have two plants growing in the same space. You can, but neither one of them will be thriving. I'm not sure that's the message, though. It just seems like two of earth, the way it's coming through here is you start one thing and you actually get two for the one thing. And laying the groundwork really pays off here. And then we have begin of arrows for your hopes, your fears, your inner landscape. The student learning, seeing something. Again, it's very private. It's reminding me of the isolation, the rose garden. I remember, looking in on a microscope and like, am I doing this right? Is it in focus? It's just something you yourself have to figure out, like getting something in focus, seeing something clearly, understanding what you're seeing. It wasn't, at least in my day, they didn't have like a microscope where you could put it on a screen and be like, this is what you should be seeing when you look in your microscope. It was just sort of like, what am I seeing? Am I seeing the right thing? I did swamp water once and I was like, wow, there's like a worm in there, and it turned out to be like a really rare parasite, the swamp water that I had picked out. And so, but I didn't know, I'm like, oh, I'm seeing a worm. What is this worm? It's just very private and maybe needing to ask some clarifying questions too. So it does seem like a private moment where you are just taking a much closer look at something. This is your hopes and fears though. So it could just be hoping for some privacy, hoping for some isolation, to look at a little more closely at something that only you can see, that's just for you. It could be also being afraid of like having to go back to school, having to start over again, or having to learn a whole new thing, especially if this two of earth produces much more than you were expecting. You may have to learn more about, it would be like finding out you're having twins and then being like, oh my gosh, how do you do that? Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to read up on this. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to like figure some stuff out here. So it could be being worried about, it's your hopes and fears. So, and it could just be you like needing to take a closer look at something, but there's some kind of privacy in this begin of arrows in particular for me. There's always this very private moment. You're in the classroom, but you are zeroing down to understand what it is that you're looking at. So there might be people around you, there might be this structure around you, but you actually have to zero in to look into that. And that may just be like an internal thing that you're doing, because it's the way he does this in this card, it is a very internal card for me. In this deck. Balance, temperance, impatience, imbalance, right? And two of earth would normally be trying to juggle something, and this is not being able to juggle it all, not being able to do it all, which is always a very disappointing thing for me. Like, I have so much on my plate and I would like to be juggling it all, but this is not being able to juggle it all. Impatience, ill health, it could be bad health, poor balance could be coming in here. Topsy-turvy energy that's just not, something hasn't found its equilibrium. So two of earth could be trying to juggle a couple things at once and just not finding equilibrium there. You're needing to be here, you're needing to be here, and it's throwing you off. You're not able to really do it all. And this having to do with work is really interesting too, of just like not being able to balance all the things you have to do, or all of the needs, or all of the money, not getting to a balanced budget. Your input isn't the same as your output. Some things, or if it's not the same, it's not the same in a very destabilizing way. So something's been destabilized here. It's not in balance, where normally you would be juggling. This is not being able to handle it all. And it could be health related, an imbalanced health issue. In your environment, you have Ace of Flowers. Somebody has some new feelings, has a new relationship perhaps, is beginning, there's a new beginning here, and it seems to relate to this like 8 of Earth, because this card, this says ha, but it looks like this flower here and then this cloud here. There's something relating to this 8 of Earth. So there's a new emotional cycle, some groundwork's been laid. I don't think this is a new person. I think this is a new feeling, a new relationship. And maybe it is a new relationship. I don't think it's an old person. It's a new relationship. Someone's laid a lot of groundwork for some sort of renewal. Someone around you is having a renewed excitement, or renewed, it's been growing for a while though. This Ace of Flowers, it's blooming. Something's blooming for someone around you. Your to-do list is Custodian of Fire. This is Queen of Wands. Custodian of Fire. This reminds me of, and it also says ha. I don't know what he means by ha. Ha. There's a flag. It says ha. Ha. So we've got 2 of those here. Custodian of Fire. I spent a winter playing, at least one winter, playing this video game called NBA Jam. I don't know if they still have it. And I was always the Hornets? No. North Carolina? I don't know. Anyway, I spent, in my youth, I spent some long Alaskan winters playing these games. And and then the thing, if you made a lot of baskets, it'd be like, he's on fire. And anyway, so that's what this reminds me of, this Custodian of Fire, is this making a lot of baskets, dunk, dunk, dunk. Really successful energy. It's very highly intuitive energy. It can create jealousy in others, but you're not paying any attention to that. You're just paying attention to the slam dunks. And maybe these are intuitive slam dunks. Yep, I knew it. Yep, I knew it. I don't know. It's just a very winning energy. And there's a way in which you're zoning out everybody else. And maybe that's the isolation. Maybe this is just practice for you, but there's a silencing of the crowd. There's a silencing of everybody else's voices, and coming into yourself and your success. But there's a sense of not caring what other people think, not being worried about that, but just winning. And yeah, it happens to be in front of everybody, but your goal is your goal. It's between you and the goal. There seems to be a lot of private energy with this Begin of Arrows, this just really focused energy on your goals, on your dreams, on what you want to accomplish, and zoning everybody else out. It doesn't matter what they think. You're just in your element. You are following your intuition, and it is outside the norm. It is outside the structure. Oh yeah, Custodian of Fire is working way outside the structure. They don't even know there's a crowd. They don't even know. They're just on the court doing their thing, just totally dialed in and focused into what they want to do. Conductor is where we're going. Emperor, boss, coordinator, the rhythm keeper, in charge. This ability to focus on your own personal development and intentions, that gets looped into a larger orchestration of something. It gets looped into something much larger. Your intention was not to catch attention, but it does. And this conductor has dreams, has visions, is going to be calling you forward. Going to be calling you forward. It's this dance with life. You're dancing very solo and custodian with fire, and then you're going to be invited to dance. Maybe it's someone else that sees some other perspective. It's got, this conductor card also has this Council of Light card of this background, helpers in the subtler realms, divine orchestration. Divine orchestration, the conductor with the orchestra, divine orchestration. Something is being orchestrated here. And it's none of your business. You're just out here dunking, out on your own. Just, you're on fire, following your own intuition, doing your thing. You're not paying attention to the structure. You're outside the structure, working outside the structure. But the structure takes some notice, and there's some divine orchestration that happens there. Okay. All right. And then for our auspicious omen this week, we have Bridget. Oh my God, because a week from today we have St. Bridget's Day. So, in bulk, Bridget offers supreme blessings of healing and protection for your journey ahead. And I'd say, dare say, we have the Queen of Fire here. She's holding fire in her hands. Healing and protection for your journey ahead. Rose garden, protection. I feel like this conductor is very protective as well. Yeah, there's a lot of protection here. This Council of Light, this Bridget, there's something really beautiful happening here. The journey ahead. So you are headed somewhere. Receiving blessings on that. All right, and then Wild Kuan Yin, last card. No, last card, not last paragraph there, thank you. Change is in the air. Why, yes it is. Nothing says change is in the air quite like a Tower card. Sometimes we take things for granted and forget to stop and realize how incredible the ordinary things can be. Growth does often seem improbable, yet it happens every day in many ways. So too is something growing in your life that seems at the moment unlikely or impossible, yet it will happen anyway. Have faith, trust your feelings, and relax. Change is in the air. Yeah, change is definitely in the air. Trust your feelings, relax, have faith, just keep dunking, keep dunking. Well, I hope that was helpful. Thank you so much for joining me here. I appreciate it. And yeah, good luck on your journey ahead.